Calling the meeting of the Senate Committee on Transport, Infrastructure and Communities back to order. We will now continue with the main estimates along with the Investing in Canada plan. A number of votes were referred to the committee on Thursday, February 23, 2017, namely Vote 1 under the Canadian Air Transport Security Authority, Vote 1 under Canadian Transport Agency, Votes 1, 5, 10, 15 and 20 under the Department of Transport, Vote 1 under Marine Atlantic, Vote 1 under the Federal Bridge Corporation, Vote 1 under Via Rail, Votes 1, 5 and 10 under the Office of Infrastructure Canada, Vote 1 under the Jacques Cartier and Champlain Bridges, Vote 1 under the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority, Votes 1 and 5 under PPP Canada. We are delighted to welcome the Honourable Marc Garneau, Minister of Transport Canada, along with your officials. Welcome. Nice to see you back with us. Mr. Michael Keenan, Deputy Minister, and Mr. Andre Lapointe, Chief Financial Officer. We also have the pleasure of having the Honourable Amarjeet Sohi, Minister of Infrastructure Canada, along with your officials, Mr. Tremblay, Deputy Minister, Mr. Fortin, and Ms. Below, and the others that are joining us today. So welcome to everyone. Thank you very much for coming. As you are aware, we have only an hour and no doubt many questions. So I shall start the discussion by calling Vote 1 under Canadian Air Transport Security Authority. And Mr. Garneau, over to you for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and honourable members, I'm pleased to meet with the committee today to talk about main estimates. Je suis accompagné de Michael Keenan, sous-ministre.
Me is Michael Keenan, Deputy Minister for Transport, and Andre Lapointe, Assistant Deputy Minister and Chief Financial Officer, Corporate Services. I would like to take a few minutes to speak to key initiatives which Transport Canada will undertake this year.
In main estimates, Budget 2017 proposed investments for transportation-related initiatives which would provide additional funds for the department in future estimates. These initiatives would help the department improve marine safety, enhance and develop new regulations, and support investments in transportation infrastructure. For example, the $1.5 billion investment announced for the Oceans Protection Plan represents the most significant investment ever made to protect our oceans and coastlines. It is a robust national plan that will protect our oceans and coastlines from the potential impacts of marine shipping and ensure the health of our oceans for generations to come. Transport Canada will work closely with Fisheries and Oceans Canada and with Environment and Climate Change Canada to deliver the various initiatives of the plan. We will also continue to develop stronger relationships and partnerships with Indigenous and coastal communities. The budget also proposes funding to enable Transport Canada to develop regulations for the safe deployment and integration of emerging technologies such as unmanned air vehicles and connected and autonomous vehicles. In addition, Transport Canada would be provided funding for a trade and transportation information system, initiatives to support clean technology and greenhouse gas reductions in the transportation sector, and a national trade corridors fund to support investment in trade-related transportation. Funds for these initiatives would be added to our departmental budget in due course. These initiatives are all critical elements for delivering on our Transportation 2030 strategic plan, which represents a major renewal of transportation policy that supports trade and economic growth, a cleaner environment, and the well-being of Canadians. The plan is focused on 5 themes: the traveller, to provide greater choice, better service, lower costs, and a new rights for consumers. Secondly, safer transportation, to build a safer, more secure transportation system. Thirdly, green and innovative transportation to reduce air pollution and embrace new technologies. 4, waterways, coasts, and the north, to build world-leading marine corridors and enhance northern transportation infrastructure. And finally, trade corridors to global markets to improve our transportation system to get products to market and grow Canada's economy. Over the coming weeks and months, I will be bringing forward other key elements of the Transportation 2030 plan, and I've circulated, or I hope I've circulated, a placemat for your reference to help situate the various initiatives under the respective themes, and I look forward to future discussions on how we are progressing in delivering the plan. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister Garneau. And now over to Minister Sohi for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I got a little sore throat, so I hope that you can understand me. So I'll try to retain my voice as much as I can. I'm asked to appear today to speak about Infrastructure Canada's main estimates and what my department is doing to deliver on government's commitment to invest in Canadian communities through its long-term infrastructure plan called Investing in Canada. Madam Chair, you introduced some of my staff members, but I'm also joined by Glenn Campbell, Executive Director for the Canada Infrastructure Bank Transition Office, as well as my Parliamentary Secretary, Mark Miller. Colleagues, Government of Canada has an ambitious plan and vision for infrastructure funding in Canada, and we have been making great progress in delivering projects. Since November 2015, we have approved over 2,200 projects across the country with a total value of $20 billion. These projects are now rolling out in communities large and small. And these investments are making a real, tangible impact on Canadian communities. This means that 864 public transit projects have been approved to date, including over 200 projects that will make public transit more accessible for people with disabilities. Investment is being made to expand 132 transit systems across the country and help communities acquire more than 1,000 new buses, among other improvements. Together, these investments will deliver faster, more reliable service and help reduce traffic congestion and pollution. 908 projects under the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund have been approved to date. These investments will give more Canadians access to clean drinking water and reduce pollution in our lakes and rivers. Over 2,000 projects to retrofit or renovate social housing have been approved to date, helping improve energy and water efficiencies, and almost 90,000 existing social housing units have been renovated. 182 arts and heritage facilities in 109 communities are being improved. Nearly 6,000 housing units on the reserve have been built or renovated or planned, along with 125 projects aimed at building and improving schools. 251 projects under the Post-Secondary Institution Investment Fund are underway to enhance and modernize research and commercialization facilities on Canadian campuses. Budget 2017, we have formalized the commitment we made through the Fall Economic Statement. The budget showed how we will invest more than $180 billion in federal funding over 12 years, and it showed how these investments will create long-term economic growth, build inclusive, sustainable communities, and support a low-carbon, green economy. Our plan focuses on 5 key areas: public transit, green infrastructure, social infrastructure, trade and transportation infrastructure, and rural and northern communities infrastructure. It also features 2 new initiatives, the Smart Cities Challenge and the Canada Infrastructure Bank. The Canada Infrastructure Bank will be responsible for investing at least $35 billion over 11 years using loans, loan guarantees, and equity investments, and attracting private capital for public infrastructure. The bank's funds are over and above the commitment we made to double infrastructure funding. Most importantly, it offers our funding partners a new way to help meet their pressing infrastructure needs. The second initiative I mentioned is the Smart Cities Challenge. It is vital that our communities are at their best, that they be responsive to the needs of citizens and be nimble in adapting to the increasingly complex challenges they face. Smart cities will do this by being better connected to their citizens, by using data to make decisions that impact quality of life, by helping to drive and attract innovation, and by fostering positive change in our communities through social inclusion. Budget 2017 announced $300 million for Smart Cities Challenge to encourage cities to adapt to new and innovative approaches to city building by focusing on innovative, measurable, and outcome-based solutions. And most importantly, it will be delivered in full partnership with all sectors of Canadian society while drawing on similar experiences in the United States, India, and other countries. We will be sharing more detailed information about Smart City Challenge in the coming weeks and months. I would now like to address the Department's main estimates and speak briefly about how our funding flows to our partners. Infrastructure Canada's total authorities for the new fiscal year are $7 billion, which is up $3.1 billion from what was requested last year. On that note, the authorities in the main estimates do not include funding for the new phase of our program, but it does include nearly $2.7 billion in contribution funding for Public Transit Infrastructure Fund and Clean Water and Wastewater Fund. It is through these two programs that we have announced over 1,760 projects to date. At my previous appearance, some of you raised concerns about funds flowing to projects across the country. It is important to note, however, that Infrastructure Canada's funding matches the pace at which our partners submit claims for reimbursements. Most partners submit claims throughout the life of the project, although some wait until the project has been completed construction. When projects are approved, funding is available for reimbursement even if projects are delayed or funds are not spent as forecasted. So through Budget 2017, Government of Canada is showing how it will support Canadian communities in the years to come. Infrastructure has a great deal of challenges ahead of us. We are ready to meet them and support our communities to build the infrastructure they need. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very much, Mr. Sohi. Mr. Reyes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister Sohi, my questions are for you. And especially with regard to the Infrastructure Bank, I'm particularly interested in this issue. As you know, I regularly ask questions of you in the House on the topic. Infrastructure Canada in 2015 indicated that no provincial or territorial government had asked for an infrastructure bank. Did that change since 2015?
That question, and through you, Madam Chair, we consulted with a wide range of stakeholders, including big city mayors, municipalities, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, Canadian Urban Transit Association, and other stakeholders who build infrastructure. And there is a need identified that regardless of the historic investments that we are making in infrastructure, there will still remain an infrastructure deficit for particularly those projects that are very large, transformative projects or projects where traditional funding models don't work effectively.
I'll stop you there, Mr. Minister. My question is, have any territorial, provincial governments or municipalities asked you for this infrastructure bank? Yes or no? Did anyone request it? And if so, who did? What province or municipality said to you that we needed this infrastructure bank? Yes or no?
The bank was a mandate commitment that we made during the campaign, and we consulted with our partners, and they're very supportive of creating the Canada Infrastructure Bank to deliver more infrastructure.
Parfait. Merci. J'ai pas eu le nom d'aucune province encore.
Thank you. You haven't named any province or territory, but that's fine. Now, you said the federal government would use its good credit rating to make loans to municipalities to fund the infrastructure projects. They are borrowing at a rate of 2% now. The Infrastructure Bank, though, must hold a financial interest for private investors. Mr. Sabia said that he was looking for a return of 7% to make it worth his while. Can you tell us what the minimum amount will be for the Infrastructure Bank when it comes to accepting projects? You have mentioned numbers in the House. You mentioned projects worth 100 or 500 million at minimum to draw the interest of investors.
Through you, Madam Chair, first of all, there's no limit on the size of the project. It could be a small project, it could be a large project. So on your first question about the rate of return, it will vary from the project to project. It depends on the nature of the project, the risk that the public sector and private sector is willing to absorb and share. So the goal of the bank is to look at each project in its own way, and then determine whether that project should be funded through the bank, whether that serves a public interest, whether this project is needed to meet the whether it's growing our economy or the needs of our community. So the rate of return will vary based on the nature of the project. But I also want to make it absolutely clear to everyone in this room that the vast majority of our infrastructure funding will still be delivered through the grants that we provide to our municipal and provincial sector. Only less than 10% of the total commitments we made will be delivered through the bank.
Parfait. Mais je veux revenir à ça.
I would like to come back to that. I'm specifically talking about the Infrastructure Bank. You are saying that all municipalities, regardless of their size, could have access to it. I'm not worried about the larger projects because larger cities will be able to access the bank if there is a financial interest. I have a question, and in fact, I had asked Mr. Tremblay this question as well. For smaller or medium-sized municipalities, can you give us an example of a project which would get the municipality to turn to the Infrastructure Bank for funding, and which would also be interesting for investors where returns would be above 2%? Can you give us a specific example of a project which could be useful for communities which are smaller and medium-sized?
Different projects have different benefits for different communities. So a project that may not be located in a small community but benefits the small community, for example, the transmission infrastructure. If you want to build your electrical transmission to reduce your dependence on coal-fired generation, and you want to connect it to the existing hydro system. So those benefits are reaped by communities throughout the region, right? So I think we feel that regardless of the location or the who owns the infrastructure, whether a small community or province or regional or big city, it's about the benefit, and we feel that every community will be able to reap some benefits from the investments that we are making through our overall infrastructure plan, but also particularly through the bank.
Monsieur le ministre.
Mr. Minister.
Thank you, ministers, for being here. My question is also for Minister Sohi. Could you please give us an update in the progress made for setting up the Infrastructure Bank before the end of the year?
So yesterday we launched the search for the leadership team of the bank. We will be recruiting the CEO for the bank, the board chair for the bank, as well as board members for the bank. So that information is out. We encourage all Canadians to apply. The legislation has been introduced as part of the Budget Implementation Act. If that is passed through the Parliament, the bank will be legally established, and our goal will be to have it running by the end of 2017.
Thank you. Minister, I've met with the GTA, who's responsible for Pearson Airport.
Yeah.
And they've introduced or shown me this project they have to turn Pearson into a multimodal hub. Is that the type of project that could potentially access the infrastructure bank?
Our goal is to look outside the box and not be confined into saying that this project does not fit, this project does fit. We will look at various options to support those kind of transformative projects, whether it's in GTA or other areas or smaller areas. The bank could potentially play a role because if there's a revenue attached to the project, that can pay off the cost of capital as well as the rate of return for the private sector. We will definitely be looking for those kind of projects that are transformative to the communities, and this is a very exciting project, actually linking the airport to from all parts of the GTA. Minister Garneau is more familiar with the overall airport plans, right? Maybe he can further elaborate on that. But those are kind of projects we would definitely look at under the bank.
Thank you for your answers. I'll be splitting my time with my colleague, Mr. Badaway.
Thank you, Mr. Seguin, and thank you, Madam Chair. A question to Minister Garneau with respect to the statement that was made that a national trade corridor is fund to support investments in trade-related transportation infrastructure. With that said, is there an expectation that existing Crown private assets expected to enhance existing trade corridors and the possibility of nationally designated trade corridors, thus, of course, adding to the overall economic positioning and, of course, the performance of that particular area? Is it safe to say that attached to that asset or assets, funds can be brought forward to enhance their performance?
Thank you very much for the question. I will say that with respect to a National Trade Corridors Fund and the overall Trade and Transportation Corridors Initiative, our focus is really driven by how do we make our trade corridors, which are vital for our economy, as efficient as possible. There are a number of bottlenecks across the country, too numerous to mention, but a large number of them. And as you know, under the previous government, there were some initiatives that were undertaken in that same direction, which have yielded some good results, but there's still more work to be done. If it represents an opportunity to make our trade corridors more efficient, if it represents an opportunity to remove a bottleneck, we will be looking at all of those cases and making decisions based on where do we get the best bang for our buck, where do we get the best improvement in terms of the fluidity and efficiency of our trade corridors. So we're not limiting ourselves overly. We're looking at efficiency of our trade corridors.
Great. And to Mr. Sohi, with respect to smart cities and investments in community growth planning, is it the intent, and it sort of aligns with where Minister Garneau is going with trade corridors, if in fact a municipality or a region or a jurisdiction, an economic cluster, sees itself as a trade corridor, and your initiative with smart cities and, of course, getting returns on infrastructure investments with respect to infrastructure improvements to assets, trade corridor assets and others, is it the intent to align a lot of your funding and a lot of your the direction that you're taking with respect to funding allocations to align with those very strategies?
Through you, Madam Chair, absolutely. We feel that the technology and innovation that is being fostered in our communities we can tap into that by launching this challenge, whether it's dealing with, as Minister Garneau was saying, the pinch points that we face on trade corridors, right? So technology can be used for that. Technology can also be used to improve services. Columbus, U.S. has launched, they won the challenge from their U.S. transportation department, and they ended up reducing infant mortality rate among in some of the underserving communities by using autonomous vehicles and improving transportation through use of technology. We see a lot of potential through the Smart Cities Challenge to support our municipal sector, provincial sector, and community sector, and look at cross collaboration between departments.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Alban.
Merci, Madame la
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister Garneau. It's a coincidence that we're both here together, and I'm so pleased about that. And I cannot help but ask you the following question, and it has to do with the victims of floodings. There are some in my riding, and it seems that there was a boat going too fast on the St. Lawrence River, creating waves. Can you tell us a little more about that incident? Is the department still analyzing what happened in that incident, or have you really launched an investigation into the events at Yamashish? Thank you to my colleague for his question. In fact, for the benefit of everyone here, the role of Transport Canada in navigation on water bodies when water levels are high is to issue notices, navigational notices. Mr. Garneau, your department provided excellent service. I'm getting to your point, sir. I am going to launch an investigation if that's what you want to know. I just want to let everyone know that we have, through the Canadian Coast Guard, imposed speed limits on navigation because we do not want waves to make the flooding even worse. So clearly we will investigate the speeding incident which was brought to our attention. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for the chart you gave us. I'm a visual person, so this is a very useful document. When I look at the Via Rail project, the high-speed train, it seems that this project correctly falls under innovation, but I don't see anywhere in the measures or in the budget, I don't see this project appear anywhere. But I think we have to act quickly on this file because the REM project in Montreal and the Via Rail high-speed train project must be completed as quickly as possible, since you're aware of the problems related to the Mount Royal Tunnel project. So, for the two issues I mentioned, do they appear anywhere in your chart? And second, can you table with the committee the various studies which have allowed you to make a decision on the Via Rail project? Thank you for your questions. I understand why you're impatient, but we have to do our homework. We are talking about projects here which are immense, and therefore, as you know, we are looking at these projects. We've set money aside to study these projects. They are very complex. If you're looking at the Quebec City-Windsor high-speed rail project, so many issues have to be taken into account when it comes to committing taxpayers' money. It means we have to do our homework first. As for the high-frequency train project, the commuter train project, I know that the Caisse de dépôt and Via Rail are discussing this project, the tunnel. So those discussions are ongoing, and there is also a study looking into the viability of that project. When we will have the results of these studies, clearly we will make that information public, and then we'll make a decision after. Is it possible that the committee can receive these studies soon? Well, when we make the studies public, that's when the committee will get the information. And the committee will see what our recommendations are as well. Thank you, Mr. Minister. We are conducting a study on airline safety, and many witnesses have raised the alarm and this concerns us. So, is Transport Canada looking into the practices and standards which have been recommended by ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization? We take air transport safety very seriously, and we are always vigilant in that regard. But beyond that, we do receive reports from the Office of Transportation Safety. This is another important element which we take into account when we make decisions. Once in a while, when another agency, such as the Office of the Auditor General, makes recommendations, we take those into account as well. So when it comes to air travel safety, be it through our participation in ICAO or when it comes to administering air safety here in Canada, this is a very important issue for us, and we are always vigilant. A witness before the committee has told us that 8 of the 13 ICAO standards are not being applied in Canada. Does this raise an alarm within Transport Canada? We are always willing to look at areas where there is room for improvement. We always take note of any criticism leveled our way. I would like to have the details from that particular witness with regard to non-compliance with ICAO standards. We are always willing to make improvements if we don't meet standards. What you're saying actually does surprise me, but I am willing to look into the matter. In our relation with ICAO, I think Canada does very well.
La question pour le ministre.
My question is for Minister Garneau. I travel with Via Rail, and I know that their fleet is aging, and that's a concern for Via. The money set aside for Via in the main estimates, will that be enough to renew the fleet? Thank you for the question. As it now stands, the answer is no. As it now stands, we've set aside money which needs to be invested in Via Rail's operations. Some of that money will also go towards hard assets. When it comes to renewing the fleet and locomotives, we are looking at that right now, actually, within the department. And the money set aside will go to Via Rail, which needs to be partially subsidized since its operational costs are not completely covered by ticket sales. I have another small question for you, Mr. Garneau. I'd like a brief answer, please. The budget for air travel safety, has it gone up since 2016, yes or no? I will ask one of my colleagues to address that.
For aviation security was the question from 2016-17 to 2017-18, or?
I would say 215. I would say before to 216 to 216 and forward.
From 15-16 to 16-17, I'm going to turn it to. I apologize for 1 second.
It's airline safety. That's what I'm talking about.
Are we talking about safety or security?
Safety.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Now, I was actually looking up. I thought the question was with the Canadian Air Transport Security. Was it for CATSA or the department?
Department.
For the department. For the department, I think the level is about the same from 16-17 to 17-18. The level in terms of aviation safety and security is about the same, I believe. It's actually a little bit higher in terms of went from 179 million in the 16-17 main estimates to 185 million in the 17-18 main estimate.
Thank you.
So a slight increase.
Minister Sohi, I have a question for you. À Laval, j'ai rencontré
Laval, I met the transportation agency, which is concerned with the delays in approvals for projects in Quebec. Do you expect to soon announce the list of infrastructure projects approved in Quebec under Phase 1?
I just want to let the committee know that since taking office, we have approved more than 200 projects for the province of Quebec with a combined investment of close to $2.5 billion. On public transit, we have received the applications. We are reviewing those applications. We have been working very closely with the province to get them to give us the information, and we have received that information very recently, and assuming that these projects meet the criteria, they will be approved very soon.
Thank you, Minister Sohi. I'm going to jump in here with a quick question. We only have 2 minutes remaining, so if I could ask you to be concise, that would be very helpful. My question pertains to investments in small communities. You know that one of the priorities in your infrastructure plan is rural and northern communities. Specifically, I'd like you to confirm whether there will be dedicated funds for small towns, rural communities, and whether things like recreational infrastructure and community transit would be eligible under those funds.
We have done very extensive consultation with small and mid-sized communities throughout the country, and that is the reason that we have introduced a $2 billion dedicated funding, particularly solely focused on small, rural, and isolated communities. So they will have that access, but they will also qualify for other funding, right? They're not excluded from applying for other funding. As for the eligibility criteria, which projects, which areas of investment, we will engage with provinces to determine where they want those investments to go, along with the mayors from smaller communities, because we want to do that. We want to have a more of a collaborative approach to determine where needs are, because each province, which is unique, the needs will differ from province to province. We want to engage with them to
Excellent.
determine.
This will make a very big difference for the people that I represent in rural Nova Scotia. Very quickly, with respect to the infrastructure bank, I think it's a great idea to take advantage of about $13 trillion in global capital and negative yield bonds. Is the ability to tap into these global investors' funds for transformational projects going to free up capital from traditional envelopes so we can invest it in smaller communities?
Absolutely, that is the goal, that in areas where there's a role for private sector to play to build that necessary infrastructure, that will free up resources that we can invest into more social housing, into more building shelters for women fleeing domestic violence, or investing in rural and northern communities that are much needed infrastructure demands they have.
Excellent. Thank you, Minister.
Mr. Hardy.
Let's try that. Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, it's a question for both ministers. We're looking at basically two sources of funding for improvements, transportation improvements specifically. And when it comes to trade corridors, we had an excellent example of the Roberts Bank Rail Corridor project in Metro Vancouver, where although it wasn't necessarily by design, there was a lot of complementarity between what was done for the trade corridor and what was also done for the region itself to improve the transportation system in Metro Vancouver. They worked together, and there was this one complemented the other, and I'm wondering, as you go forward and you're assessing projects from municipalities, particularly in trade-sensitive areas, whether or not you two are going to be talking to each other to make sure that the investments do complement each other, so that we're not necessarily boosting one thing, but the whole program will collapse because the other part isn't working very well. I hope that's more or less clear enough for a good long answer.
Well, thank you very much. And the Minister and I talk to each other continuously. And Well, the classic example is something like a grade crossing where, unfortunately, because of long trains going by, there are several important consequences for local traffic and what have you. And in some cases, the solution is to provide vertical separation. That has happened in the Vancouver area in particularly sensitive parts of the corridor. And obviously, when we are going to be focused on trying to make the corridors more fluid, we don't want to make life worse for the local municipalities. So it's very much part of our considerations. We're not sort of working in a silo in that respect, because the solutions that we want to bring, from my point of view, in terms of making those corridors more efficient, are not meant to make life more difficult for local municipalities. So we are certainly talking with not only ourselves, but also with the municipalities and all of the players involved wherever there's a bottleneck.
Just to further supplement through you, Madam Chair, we are supporting Federation of Canadian Municipalities with some support from the federal government to encourage and support municipalities to do more long-term asset management planning and coordination of their plans. So that coordination happens at a local level, and then we work with them. And Mr. Garneau and I and other ministers who are linked to infrastructure investments, we work very closely with each other and on the reporting and also delivering the results for Canadians.
Yeah, one can see, particularly in metro areas where there's a lot of movement to and from, say, a seaport, a lot of container traffic going to warehouses, et cetera, that it isn't necessarily even the corridor itself, but it's the whole road system, and sometimes complemented by a good public transit system that alleviates enough pressure so that you can get those goods moving properly, in a metro area.
Just quickly, but one practice that we are encouraging municipalities to undertake is look at mobility as a whole, not just transit segregated from roadway infrastructure, trade and transportation infrastructure. How do goods and services move in our urban centers or in other areas? We want to encourage that kind of holistic approach to transportation planning.
And this is where, smart cities.
It's round here just because I'm trying to make sure that Mr. Berthold gets an opportunity as well. So 4 minutes for Mr. Berthold.
No, it's Ms. Block.
Oh, Ms. Block?
Yeah.
Sorry, we had the wrong name down here. Go ahead, Ms. Block.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I do want to thank you for being at our meeting here today. There's a saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but this seems to be especially true given the current government's commitments and their ability to execute them. I guess there is still a lot to learn about deliverology, and I'm imagining that the many cabinet ministers are thinking it's a good thing that there is a 2-year contract in place with the ability to extend it for another year with the deliverology guru that you've got lined up to help you. I want to refer to the plan that's in front of me. I think it's a very ambitious plan. I see that it's going out to 2030. But, all things being equal, I think sometimes rank ordering priorities provides a bit more clarity, and this committee has undertaken a number of studies when it comes to rail safety, the Navigation Protection Act. We're currently undertaking a study on aviation safety. And so I'm thinking that, a safe and reliable transportation system is probably something that would be one of the top priorities of Transport Canada. And so after making those observations, I guess I would like to hear from you, Minister Garneau, if you believe that the significantly lower budget that you have today compared to 2015, 2016 gives you the resources that you need to not only fulfill the obligations that you have, but also this vision that you have introduced.
Well, thank you very much, and I agree with you that rail safety is extremely important. In fact, I've said it. I'm on record as saying it's my #1 priority. And in fact, in 2016, as you recall, more funding was identified for rail safety because we still had work to do. 143 million, in fact, and 55 million of that I announced last November, which was with respect to the issue of addressing safety issues at grade crossings, and I announced 20 million just a little while ago of that 55 million for about 130 projects which are aimed at improving rail safety at grade crossings, because there are still last year there were some 65 deaths at grade crossings or people trespassing on railways. So
may I
yes,
just interrupt
please.
you for a moment? Rail safety is absolutely important. My observation was just a safe and reliable transportation system on the whole, including aviation safety, marine safety. I'm just really wanting to know if you believe that the budget you have today, which is significantly lower than in the previous years, is enough to fulfill the obligations that you have across all modes of transportation.
Yes, I believe it is.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you to the ministers and your staff for appearing before us today.
Point of order, Ms. Chair.
Yes.
I don't know why you are stopping the meeting right now. We have 10 minutes left. I know we have to vote on the main estimate,
Yes.
but usually it takes just 5 minutes to do that.
Well, you
So
never know if there are going to be any concerns raised, and it's important for us to try to pass these main estimates today. So I did not want to leave it down to the very last minute of the wire, and there was only 35 seconds left of the 4-minute rounds that we were shifted down to. So
on the same point of order, Ms. Chair, I want to know why you decide to change the timing allowed to each people to speak, because we have a motion on the table precising each round, each time we have.
Yes.
So if we did like it was supposed to, they add 6 minutes, we had 6 minutes, and we had time to ask all our questions. So now we don't have, because we didn't plan it. You didn't say to us.
No. Let me put it straight. Everybody had 6 minutes exact on the first round, 6:16, 6:20, 6:20, 6:17 for all four. The round that started with Mr. Hardy, I shifted from 6 minutes to 5 minutes, and then looking at the clock, moved it to 4. And the same was for Ms. Block, was 4.
Yeah, but
so we're talking about 2 minutes here.
Yeah, but it's important when we have only 10 minutes to ask 2 ministers in the same meeting. Mm-hmm. It's really important. Those 2 minutes could have make a difference, because I could have a chance to ask the minister and to thank him for his support for Lac Mégantic.
Well, you can use that now. You've done that, and I appreciate your comments, and we will move forward. Thank you all again. I appreciate you being here. Pursuant to Standing Order 81-4, the committee will now dispose of the main estimates for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2018, minus the interim supply the House agreed to on March 21st, 2017. For the Ministry of Transport, Vote 1 under Canadian Air Transport Security Authority. Vote 1 under Canadian Transportation Agency. Votes 1, 5, 10, 15, and 20 under Department of Transport. Vote 1 under Marine Atlantic. Vote 1 under the Federal Bridge Corporation. And vote 1 under Via Rail Canada. For the Minister of Infrastructure, it is votes 1, 5, and 10 under Office of Infrastructure of Canada. Votes 1 and 5 under PPP Canada Incorporated. Vote 1 under the Jacques Cartier and Champlain Bridges. And vote 1 under the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority. Do I have unanimous consent to deal with all the votes in one motion? Do I have unanimous consent to deal with all votes in one motion? Yes, okay. I can deal with all votes in one motion. Shall all the votes under the Office of Infrastructure of Canada and Department of Transport of the Main Estimates 2017-18 carry? On division? Okay. Shall I report these votes to the House? Thank you. All right. Therefore, we're done, and no one has objected, and we've managed to get through it. I had to allow sufficient time in case you were going to object, and we had to go through all the votes individually. Thank you all very much. Thank you, folks. Next meeting is Thursday.